Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Okay, so as we begin this afternoon, just a short sharing of what ACMI does, allow me to give a background to this session that we're about to have. Every year we have, the church sets aside a day called World Day for Migrants and Refugees. And every year our Holy Father, the Pope, will issue a theme or letter or some areas of concern that he's inviting the church and the wider world to focus about. Now, in this year's message, he is inviting us to just be aware of what is actually very basic and innate to us, and that is the concept or the idea or even the essence of who we are as persons, and that is we are not alone. It is not about I, but a we. But what does this we encapsulate? And where does ACMI in Singapore then, where do we fit in the picture in terms of serving the migrants? I think it's better for the Holy Father to talk than for me to try and attempt to do a reflection on this. So let this be our opening prayer for this segment. I invite you then to watch this 4-minute video where the church brings us on a reflection. And I think this video is a good summary for us to start off the afternoon as we first call to mind, what does it mean to be a wider we? What does it mean to be a community? What does it mean to go beyond just the I, but to you and I as well?
Quest'anno ho scelto come tema per la giornata mondiale del migrante e rifugiato un noi sempre più grande. È un invito rivolto a tutti perché ci impegniamo a restaurare la nostra famiglia umana. Siamo come tanti granelli di sabbia, tutti diversi e unici, ma che insieme possono formare una spiaggia bellissima, una vera opera d'arte.
I'm Bishop Mark Seitz, and I'm the Bishop of El Paso on the U.S.-Mexico border. I grew up in a family of 10 children. We didn't have much, but I remember that whenever an extra mouse showed up at dinner time, we would just slide over, and my mother always made sure there was enough food for everyone.
Siamo tutti sulla stessa barca e siamo chiamati ad impegnarci affinché non ci siano più muri che ci separano, affinché non ci siano più gli altri, ma solo un noi grande come l'intera umanità.
God always gives us what we need to welcome another person. It's not about us and them. I found the most rewarding opportunities of my life serving here at the border. I've learned that borders can be vibrant places of encounter and welcome, encounters that enrich us. I've learned that we are all interconnected as one human family. We stand or fall together. We build walls and fences which divide us. Today, people of faith need to be bridge builders. The Holy Spirit breaks down everything that separates us, walls of poverty, indifference, and exclusion. Here at the border, and in every place of encounter with those on the margins, God is calling us to be a bridge people. God is weaving a beautiful new future at a time when many were being deported across the border. On one occasion, I felt called to cross the border to meet with families being expelled on the other side. I met an immigrant family fleeing assassination threats and death, and then I accompanied them back to the international border to stand and witness while they sought asylum again. And when we got to the border and approached the guards, the 9-year-old young child in the family, Maria, took my hand. She was so vulnerable. I was fearful too. I discovered something about myself. I realized our destinies, hers and mine, were somehow linked. It was no longer about us and them. I felt the presence of God calling us to build a world where everyone has a place, a chance to flourish, to live with dignity. God calling us to build a world with a we as wide as humanity.
What are your thoughts when you were watching the video? For me personally, I think it's a good reminder, especially the part where we are invited to break down the walls that separate us. I think in the past 1.5 years or so, we see a lot of walls being built around us, most of the time against our will. And I think it is not too far off for me to say that a lot of us are probably resigned to just staying behind the walls and not, being very comfortable as individuals, living our own lives, doing our own things, and not thinking what happens outside the wall. Now, to me, I think this year's message, the Holy Father is inviting us to go beyond the walls. I think climb over the walls if we have to, break down the walls if we have to, because at our very core and essence, we are a community. We do not exist alone. And if I throw in the lens of faith, we are not saved alone as well. The salvation that we share, that we are invited to, is a relationship, and that it is God who saves us with our efforts and response. So with this, then how can we then look and respond to our migrant brothers and sisters in Singapore? Because in these walls that were erected, in the difficulties that we are currently going through in our societies and communities, many a times, it is the vulnerable, the poor, the marginalized, and the migrants who will feel the strongest brunt of all the effects, the sufferings, and the pain. Across the world, everywhere, we can still see and sense God's love and spirit moving. A lot of people are rallying around to help the people who are in need. The same is in Singapore as well. I think through many Catholic charities and even many other charities in Singapore are all very active, reaching out to help people, to serve people, to give them the assistance and assurance that they are not alone. So where does ACMI then fit in? ACMI fits in as a purpose, as an organization, to essentially journey with all migrants. And how do we do that? We journey by protecting, promoting, integrating, and supporting them into our community. And this is irregardless of their status and their religion. So this is where ACMI anchor ourselves in the core of our work. We journey with our migrant brothers and sisters for whatsoever reason that they have come to Singapore. We give them the assurance that we are here with you, we are here to protect you, to welcome you, to support, and also to integrate into the Singapore family. What is then our role? It's a big mouthful to what I've said earlier about welcoming them, integrating them, supporting them. But how does that translate into tangible or even visible actions, or even an experience? If you look at this chart before you, it's a very big piece of chart, but allow me to summarize. This chart itself is already a first summary of what Pope Francis is calling us to do. And that is we cannot do the work ourselves. Why? Simply because if you look at the chart, there are many people involved in the chart. It is not just ACMI going out to reach out to the migrants. We involve many communities, religious communities, or even the migrant communities themselves, and also even the local communities. We involve them, we rally them, we invite them to join us and participate in the work with us. And through the community, and by bringing everybody together, what do we first hope to achieve? We want to empower them. We want to empower them to be able to help and care for their own physical needs. Why is this so? Why not just give them, help, assistance, and then leave it as it is? We are all, as human persons, we have a dignity that is given to us. We are all children of God. And as the dignity that we share means that we all have the capacity to flourish, to develop, to grow to the best where God has designed or meant for all of us to be. And in empowering them, we want them to also collaborate with us, to take responsibility for their own development. There's this saying, if you give a person a fish, you only feed them for one day. But if you teach them how to fish, they can essentially help themselves, feed themselves for a longer time. So firstly, we want to empower them. We want to give them the necessary so that they can first take charge, and they want to be helped, and they're willing to be helped. Then we will move to see what their issues, their troubles, their problems are, and then we can assist them. Secondly, we want to also enable them to discover what are the skills, the talents, the gifts that God has given to them. Now, a lot of them may not be as fortunate as all of us here in this room. We in our sense, we have our own blessings. We were able to go through or be given opportunities to succeed in life. But a lot of times, that cannot be said for our migrant brothers and sisters. They may not have the same opportunities as us, where they are coming from. But that does not mean that they do not have any potential. Perhaps like an unpolished diamond. They're just waiting for the right time, for the right craftsman, for the right conditions to be polished, and they too can become bright, shining stars like all of us here. So what we want to do is also to enable them to discover their gifts, their strengths, their potentials, or even their interests. My colleagues share with me in their work that they have seen in the skills classes that they have been journeying with the migrants, how a lot of them come in on the first day feeling very lost, feeling very uncertain. They do not even have the confidence to hold a conversation. But after just a short few months, we see a transformation. They discover that they are also valued. Their views also matter. They have a chance to also contribute. We see a big change in them. And a lot of them, as they journey with us, they suddenly realize that, actually I didn't know that I have a flair in baking. I actually am very good in cooking, or I have some other skills. Or sometimes going through this encounter with us, they may even discover that, what do I want to do after life in Singapore? Perhaps I may want to start a business. I may want to help other people as well. And this is something that we are very heartened to be blessed and to be able to participate in this work. And we also want to promote personal growth and integral development. So again, the human person is of limitless opportunities and potentials. So we want to give them the opportunity to help them to grow, to help them to discover themselves, so that they can also change their lives around. And in time to come, perhaps when they're doing well in Singapore, they too can pass the light on to their family members, to their friends at home, and also transform the communities that they have come from. And I think this is particularly beautiful because this is also a response to what the Holy Father has said, a wider we. And that when they are in Singapore, they may be just working among us silently, but slowly, step by step, in time to come, they are also in their ways transforming the scene back home where they have come from. And we want to also foster social inclusion and cohesion within our community. I think over the past few years, we are not alien, or we are not indifferent, or it's not surprising to us that there has been a lot of conversations about locals, migrants, us, them. And this is not limited only in Singapore. I think globally we see this happening. And with the COVID-19 situation, that conversation somehow has found its way back to the table again. And where does this thinking, or why do these divides start? Now, to me, it boils down to simply just individualism. Because we just want to see what is in for us. What is for me? What is my advantage? What is good for me? Again, we are then invited to go beyond the I towards a we. And there is something in the message that Pope Francis has said, and that is, there are differences between all of us. But we are not called to ignore the differences or to just attempt to apply a uniform standard and depersonalize, take away all our individual characters and just standardize like a factory production. But rather, we are called to integrate and accept the differences. And each of us, even in this room, our difference, if I can just direct your memory to the end of the video as you see the sand art, our differences, all grain by grain, bit by bit, contributes towards a bigger piece of art, a bigger piece of beauty, which is humanity itself, all of us. Hence, it is important for ACMI then to be on the ground, to promote the inclusion of communities. We want our migrant brothers and sisters, and even our local brothers and sisters, to come together, to see each other, to appreciate and understand each other. If there's any myth, legends, or misconception, it's the time to clarify, to know each other, rather than continue to live under perceptions and assumptions. And interacting and being inclusive also opens up a lot of opportunities for diversities. We then also learn to understand the difficulties, or why are some people behaving in this manner, or why are certain things done in this way. And all this can only happen if we take the first step. And ACMI wants to be there, to be one of the many parties who promote and to facilitate this inclusion. So that is the bigger picture of what we hope to achieve. Then what is our role then within the church? After all, ACMI is a organization that is started by the church, because the church commits very openly that our migrant brothers and sisters are people that are important to us, and their needs need to be looked at. So closer to home in Singapore, what is then ACMI's role? Firstly, we are the umbrella body for all migrants and itinerant peoples and communities in the diocese. Meaning to say, some of you in your own parishes, you may have come into contact, or you may be aware that there are migrant communities within your parish. These are local communities in a parish context, and a lot of times they're supported locally within the parishes or even by the parish priest. What ACMI wants to do, or what we are invited or called to do, is we want to be that umbrella body, that coordinating body, to bring together, to hear and listen to the needs of the various communities, and also to support them, most importantly. A lot of them, sometimes they face a lot of obstacles or even struggles in trying to just reach out to even the local communities, or even to just get support or help, or just to establish a presence within the community itself. So as an umbrella body, we are sort of like the big brother or sister, not in the controlling sense. We are not there to lord over them, but we are there to serve them, to support them, and to see how we can open doors for them as well. We also will proactively identify actions that help the diocese to respond to the pastoral needs. In short, we are also out there talking to communities, to other stakeholders, the government, even our migrant brothers and sisters. We listen to needs. And after listening to the needs, we make sense of the needs, and we provide that feedback, that mouthpiece, if you may, back to the relevant people, to which then sensible and meaningful decisions can be made. Now, a lot of time, again, our migrant brothers and sisters are here to seek out a better life. And if we understand their working conditions, a lot of them work very long hours. So they may not have the time or even the attention sometimes to be wondering or thinking about a lot of range of things. And that's where, in this point, we hope to come in to also interact with them, and when we understand them, we can also speak on their behalf. We can also help them to advocate or even bring some of the needs to the attention. I personally believe in Singapore, all of us have the heart to do good. But sometimes, what we do not know, we cannot respond. So this is where we hope to also create an awareness. Hey, do you know this is happening? Do you know these are the conditions that's going on? And to also have a conversation, so that slowly but surely we can then together journey and make meaningful changes and grow our communities as well. We also provide training, formation, and direction for staff, volunteers, and beneficiaries. Again, there's cultural differences, there are language differences. We don't profess to know everything, and we can't just walk in suddenly and claim that we understand how to interact or how to talk to our migrant brothers and sisters. So training is also an important point that ACMI does. We also want to help people to understand the differences, the sensitivities, and also the opportunities as well. And sometimes it is through training. It also helps to further develop ourselves as well. And in training itself, there will be opportunities where sometimes we will come face to face with certain biasness or even certain deficiencies that we have. So this is one area that we hope to do and that we are actively doing. And even as migrant brothers and sisters work in Singapore, Singapore is not a closed country. We collaborate, and we are part of the global family as well. So that said, even for ACMI, we don't just do our work in silo in Singapore. We have linkage, and we do talk to other similar organizations around the regions, or even on a wider scale within the church itself. And this also helps us to have an appreciation and understanding of what is happening around the world. Now, a lot of migrants in Singapore can come from countries where we already have connections. And what is helpful is sometimes in our conversations with them, we first get an appreciation and understanding of what is happening over there. So that when we interact then in Singapore with them, we also can understand why sometimes they are feeling a certain way. Issues at home can affect them. So this is one important point, that we have linkages with the wider community as well. And we are the resource on issues of pastoral need for our migrant brothers and sisters. Basically, anyone wants to do good, wants to reach out to the migrant brothers and sisters, you don't know where to go, come and talk to us. So, having seen the role that we do, some of you may ask then, okay, how does this translate into the day-to-day work that happens on the ground? What do you mean by helping them to see, integrating them, fostering them, and so on? So in ACMI, our work is divided into 4 main ministries. Firstly, we have the case management and pastoral care, which essentially responds to the protecting element that we have spoken earlier this afternoon. As much as most migrant workers work in Singapore without incident, there are unfortunately some who will run into difficulties and challenges. Sometimes their own challenges, or sometimes they have met employers, people who perhaps are not as enlightening, as loving, and as charitable as we would like them to be. And this is where they run into trouble, issues. And the first thing that ACMI does is we protect them. We provide that support to them. We want them to know that you're not alone, and that there is still justice, there is still love that exists, and that we will help you, we'll protect you, we'll make sure that you are well taken care of. And when we help them to look at their immediate needs, when they are not in crisis, when they are more calmed down, when they are more at peace, then we can also focus with them to help them to look at how we can further improve their lives as well. Pastoral and formation. So our migrant brothers and sisters are human persons, as we say. So if it's human persons, we don't just look at the physical needs. There is the emotional needs, the spiritual needs. So likewise, in pastoral and formation, what we hope to do is also to reach out to them. A lot of them are Catholics or even people of other faith. But for our Catholic migrant brothers and sisters, from our experience, a lot of them have, most of the time, only received baptism at birth, but zero catechesis or minimal catechesis. And yet they are in Singapore. They recognize and they see a church. They recognize the elements of faith. And perhaps in the loneliness or in the unfamiliarity in a migrant foreign land, they reach out to the church. And sometimes they are seeking answers in life as well. And what best way is to provide the opportunity for them to discern the answers to their lives from a faith perspective. So that's one important ministry in ACMI as well. We provide pastoral and formation care. We help our migrant brothers and sisters to also grow in their faith. At the same time, we also invite our local brothers and sisters to also come and understand the challenges that they face in terms of their faith journeys. Skills development. This is one thing that we do and is quite feasible. We essentially conduct classes. The migrant brothers and sisters also have aspirations. They have a desire to learn as well. They have a desire to learn as well. So what we do is we put together classes that allow them to upgrade themselves as well. Not just as the call for locals, for all of us to continuously learn and upgrade. They too should not be excluded from this as well. And they should also be given the opportunity to flourish. So we organize classes like baking, cooking, sewing, and we are continuously on the lookout for new, interesting classes that we can provide to them as well, so that they can also have a meaningful time in Singapore. Outreach and engagement. And this is where the few of you in this room today will have heard in detail what ACMI is doing. But beyond that, it is not surprising that sometimes a lot of us out there may not be aware or may not have an up-to-date understanding of what is happening. So in ACMI, we feel that we also cannot just be inward-looking, doing our work day in, day out. We need to go out there to also talk to people, to facilitate, to be bridges, to allow people to come and talk to each other as well. So we have an outreach and engagement, where essentially we want to bring local and foreign communities together, to allow them to interact, to even have activities together, and to also appreciate each other as well. So diving deep quickly into some of the details of the work that we do. For case management and pastoral care, we talk about protecting them, giving them the necessary support. This is done through efforts like counseling. Especially today, mental health is a very big issue. A lot of them feel stress, and they may not be in the best position to know how to respond to these stresses. So we provide counseling assistance, counseling support to those who just need a listening ear, or even sometimes some advice or some guidance on how they can manage some of the stresses and difficulties in life. We have induction training for volunteers as well, so that our volunteers will also know how to respond appropriately when interacting with our migrant brothers and sisters. We also look at their physical needs, material and medical needs. Some of them come to us with medical issues that perhaps have been ignored for quite a while. We will see how we can help them and to bring them on the road to recovery. And the latest addition that we have is a helpline call service that we have established, which I will elaborate shortly. It's also an opportunity for them to seek help from a source that speaks their language and even understands their culture. So what is this helpline about? This is a collaboration that we have with UGAT Foundation in the Philippines. The UGAT Foundation is a Jesuit foundation based in Ateneo University in Manila. They have been helping or providing remote counseling services since 1992. So in the recent time where we are divided and we are not able to meet up face-to-face, some of the mental health issues become more magnified. So ACMI, we have been blessed with this collaboration. So we are collaborating with this foundation, and we have established a helpline for the migrants. So what essentially goes behind this helpline? It's a free helpline that allows our migrant workers to speak in their own native languages. Sometimes when you are feeling very stressed, when you're in crisis, to having to translate into the working language of English in Singapore, you may not be able to adequately express yourself or to just release your emotions and feelings. So this helpline aims to have counselors who can speak the native language of the various migrant brothers and sisters. And being able to speak the language also means that they also can understand the cultural and community nuances so that they feel that they are taken care of, that they are really, when they share with a counselor, that they are really heard, and that certain nuances that they share, the counselor understands where they are coming from. It is available daily from 9 p.m. to 12 midnight. This timing is established because from our studies and our surveys, a lot of migrant workers work very long hours, and most of the time they end work after 9 o'clock. And it's also when they end work is where they start to perhaps call home, talk to their family members, and sometimes these conversations may also trigger a crisis. So we want to be there for them at the correct time as well. So what does this line do? It provides psycho-emotional support and crisis counseling. Okay, essentially, if they're feeling trouble, they are stressed, there's nobody to talk to, they can call this helpline. As we said, we want to bring this service in the native languages. As a start, it is available in English, and because the collaboration is with a foundation that's based in Philippines, naturally, the first language that's available is the Philippine language and the various dialects as well. But we do hope to add more languages in time to come. Languages like Thai, Vietnamese, and so on. So moving on to pastoral and formation, there are 4 pillars that ACMI aims to achieve, which is firstly to have personal development and formation. We help them to find purposeful living. For those who need an understanding and growth in faith, we provide formation and catechesis. And also, we want to help them to live out the Catholic faith as well. And what you see below are the various programs that we have come out or we have planned to respond to the various pillars that I have mentioned. Again, you can see from these programs, some of these programs are not unfamiliar to us here. They are already conducted by existing communities and organizations. So it's also one concrete way that ACMI is also collaborating with other people as well. That we cannot do this work alone. And that we will rally the community together to also participate in our outreach to the migrants. Now, in terms for outreach, what are some of the activities we do? We organize or we collaborate with parish and communities who wish to do dormitory outreach, who perhaps wish to interact with our migrant brothers and sisters in a dormitory. We also encourage them to perhaps cook or bake a meal, in some fundraising events or even some just outreach events, to sometimes allow them to just feel that little bit of love. Sometimes it's very easy for us to buy something and give it, but when we do it ourselves, I think the expression of love and appreciation is definitely different. And it works both ways as well. We have conducted this 1 or 2 times, and I think the feedback we have gotten from the participants was the process of baking itself has also been an encounter for them. Because as they were baking, as they were waiting for the baked goods to cook, they know the purpose of this activity, and they start to then reflect the plight, the situation of our migrant brothers and sisters. And that is the first step to creating awareness as well. We hope in time to come, with collaboration with parishes and certain organizations in Singapore, they will have a safe place to gather. Of course, following the prevailing safe management measures during this period. And that in these places, we hope to provide data services so that they can call and communicate with their families without charge. And we also hope to bring them to places of interest. Now, a lot of our migrant brothers and sisters, they participate in building the many beautiful and wonderful places we have in Singapore. But a lot of times, they may not have the opportunity to even experience or visit these places. So we hope to collaborate with communities and parish to bring them on a journey so that they can also enjoy these places of experience. And we hope in time to come, if parishes or communities would like a more longer-term effort to also consider adopting a dormitory. Adopting a dormitory then means that you journey with them, you visit them regularly. If they have any needs, we also work to see how you can alleviate some of the needs that the workers have. So for skills development, these are straightforward courses. These are just some highlights that we do, like language courses. A lot of them may not be proficient in the English language. So we help to bridge that gap by conducting English courses, computer courses, cooking, baking courses, and in time to come, we want to also start workshops on healthcare and even personal etiquette. So as I come to a close, what we have just gone through is really a very quick flavor of what ACMI does. And if we look at the message or the invitation that our Holy Father has given us, that we should move together as a community and just not as an individual, then my invitation to all of us here present is, what can we do to also contribute to this work as well? All of us have been given gifts, talents, and charisms. So the invitation here is, if you see the work that we do, and if you feel that there's any work that speaks out to you, we invite you to join us as a volunteer. These are just some of the needs that we have. We need trainers to help us with the skills development classes. We need people to help us with marketing and communications. This is especially important. Even this event today is hybrid in the sense that I'm speaking to people who are physically present here. It is also recorded and it will eventually be online. Likewise, we need to embrace technology to reach out to people out there who may not be able to connect with us physically. But in order for us to be effective, we also need to, be as skillful, be relevant, and to keep up with the trends. So in order for us to do that, we hope you can come forward if you have skills in marketing and communications to lend some time with us. And in case management and pastoral care, we also need people to sometimes journey and just support the people that we are helping with. Pastoral information, a lot of the sessions that we run cannot be just done by one or two people. And this is especially in 2022 and beyond. We start to go into the parishes, which means we will need more volunteers to help to facilitate some of the sessions. And that in outreach and engagement, sometimes when we go to the dormitories, where we do excursions for the migrants, again, we need people to interact, to journey, and to help us with the logistics and planning as well. Of course, that said, beyond the time that it is given, there are also efforts that ultimately need financial resources. And this is where we also say, if you find it, the work that ACMI does resonates with you, we do invite you to consider supporting our work as well. So, as I draw this to a close, let me just use the video that we have produced this year for Migrant Sunday. And I think it's a good summary to what I have just said. And it's a good visual representation of how the work in ACMI comes alive in Singapore as well. And after the video, I will just lead everyone in the closing prayer. And with that, thank you very much for your time and attention today.
আমার বাবা তো মনে টাকা পয়সা ছিল না আমার লোনকে টাকা খেত বেচেছি জমি বেচেছি তারপর ব্যাংকে লোন আনছি তারপর হাউস বিক্রি তারপরে ওখান থেকে ওই সাইড ইস্যু করার পরে লোকের কামে ওখান থেকে টাকা পয়সা দিত না কামানো পরে ব্যাংক টাকা বেশি পরে আজ ইস্টার সিঙ্গাপুর for lockdown, my family, how to makan. I know 4 months, 7 months, I know actually how to manage. অনেক কষ্ট আমার লোন আসলে লোন দেখতে
I'm not really lucky with my first employer, so I need to borrow a phone with my neighbor just to call my family back home. It's difficult because you want to check your family, but then your employer won't allow you to use phone. Before I take my off, I need to do work, wash the cars, clean the house. So I leave the house maybe around 12 already. Then I need to come back at 4:30. I sleep about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And then I woke up 5:30.
我的前夫回去越南做工，所以我在这边跟他父母亲我在这里，我的 visa 又到期了，我要如果ICF 不 approve 我就离开嘛，就没有人帮我看孩子，很多的东西发生就感觉好像你在这里一个外国人很陌生没有家庭又没有朋友，做工又很压力。很多东西又很累，又孩子的读书的压力很多问题，又不懂教师看到吗
Jesus said it, love your neighbor as you love me. If you want to live that, then we have to do that.
I think that is what is important. It's not to look at strangers, but to look at as a human. And that's the reason Pope Francis keeps insisting saying that every person on this earth has their dignity and they need to be respected.
हमारे बैंक के टेका दीजिए এমতে কাউন্ট on the quick trace অনেক ব্রাশ অনেক কিছু দিয়েছে Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I'm not just dreaming for my children, but then of course for myself also. I started studying here at ACMI until my previous trainer, she told me that if I can join with them as a trainer, I'm not really comfortable at first, right? But then they really push me, okay, you can do it, okay.
我去我的同事跟我一起做工，他的女儿就帮我讲社工咯，他会给我们食物给我的孩子 laptop 他帮助我的家很多，钱给我一个long term pass 留出这里了，真的检讨你们社工帮忙我真的很感恩。
If we recognize that they have sacrificed a lot to come across, then I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're there with us. One, we treat them well. Number two, we sit down with them and work out how can we make your life better, so that when you go back, your sacrifice is worth it.
Siamo tutti sulla stessa barca e siamo chiamati ad impegnarci affinché non ci siano più muri che ci separano, affinché non ci siano più gli altri, ma solo un noi grande, come l'intera umanità.
ACMI supports the migrant community here in Singapore. For all migrants seeking support, facing emergencies, or are in need of any assistance, please call our ACMI Migrant Helpline today at 9188-9162. For more information, scan the QR code or visit acmi.org.sg.
So my dear friends, as we bring this session to a close, I thank the Lord for the gift and presence of all of you. And I invite you in the silence of your heart as I lead all of you in this prayer. Holy beloved Father, your Son Jesus taught us that there is great rejoicing in heaven whenever someone lost is found, whenever someone excluded, rejected, or discarded is gathered into our we, which thus becomes ever wider. We ask you to grant the followers of Jesus and all people of goodwill the grace to do your will on earth. Bless each act of welcome and outreach that draws those in exile into the we of community and of the church, so that our earth may truly become what you yourself created it to be, the common home of all our brothers and sisters. Amen. Thank you very much, and we wish you a pleasant day ahead.